I'm sitting on the top of Kilimanjaro.
It's the Lady Brain Show. We're Steph and Lauren. We're back. Recently, we had the opportunity to sit down with Denise Dunning, Program Director, and Emily Teitsworth, Program Manager of the Adolescent Girls Advocacy and Leadership Initiative, also known as AGALI. Let's run that interview. The Adolescent Girls Advocacy and Leadership Initiative improves adolescent girls' health, education, and livelihoods in Africa and Latin America. AGALI has created a global movement of leaders and organizations advocating for girls. With us tonight are Denise Dunning and Emily Teitsworth from the AGALI program. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
So tell us how you became involved with AGALI.
We started this work back in 2009, and it's basically a movement to try to improve girls' lives in different countries around the world. So we're really thrilled to get to be here and talk a little bit about it.
So how do you help make a change?
Yeah, basically what we do is we identify leaders that are working on issues affecting girls, and we give them a little bit in terms of resources and skills and funding so that they can advocate for girls. So really helping them to change laws and policies that improve girls' access to schooling and poverty reduction programs, as well as several other different areas.
And are you out there identifying areas that would benefit from your help, or are they coming to you? How does one go about getting some help?
So our focus is really on providing leaders who are already doing this work with the tools that they need to become advocates. And so we let them and the organizations speak for themselves and decide the area of focus that they want to work on. And then we help provide the skills and the resources they need to be able to do that.
So what are some examples of ways that you've helped girls across the world?
One of our most exciting successes last year was two women who we helped train a couple years ago were able to advocate for a national law to protect children's rights in Liberia. And this is something that had been tabled, and a lot of people thought that it wasn't going to pass and it wasn't going to be successful, but just their advocacy and bringing this back onto the national conversation allowed this to pass in less than a year. And so we're really excited about that.
So what does that mean for the children in Liberia?
So it basically means comprehensive protection. So it guarantees their access to education. It makes it so that child marriage is now illegal. It makes it so that female genital mutilation, which is a huge problem there, is also illegal. So it's this very all-encompassing, basically, law that has the potential to change girls' and boys' lives for the future of Liberia.
Did this law just pass? Would I have read about this in the last month or so? I feel like children's rights.
Year.
Okay, and I feel like I was. Maybe it's another country also adopting rights for children.
That you may have been involved in.
That might have been us also.
Where does the funding come from?
So we're funded by the UN Foundation, along with a few private small family foundations. And the idea basically is Ted Turner started the UN Foundation to try to support the UN, and we receive funding so that we can help strengthen leaders in country who can make that work that much more successful. So it's basically a tipping point model where we find the people that have the potential to really create systems-wide change and give them a little bit in terms of resources and skills and funding, and they can really break open issues and totally change what this scenario in reality is for girls.
So cool.
You mentioned a few things that this children's rights law in Liberia help affect. What are some other examples of things that you've enabled help for adolescent girls in particular?
Well, one of the big things we're working on right now is the issue of child marriage. In Malawi especially, over 47% of girls are married before they're 18, and often that's at 12 or 13 years old. So we're working with leaders who are collaborating with chiefs and traditional authorities at the grassroots level to really stop child marriage as a practice. And then we're also working with a large coalition of civil society nonprofit organizations to get a law passed there that raises the age of marriage to 18 years. Right now it's 15, and they're working on that as we speak.
And do you find that people are, I guess I should say, the folks that live in that country that are in charge are resistant to these kinds of changes to their culture, or are they in agreement and they just don't know how to initiate the change? I mean, what kinds of things do you run up against challenge-wise?
Our model is really one where we're finding the people that are already doing great work and helping them to do it even better. Mm-hmm. And so it's never us coming in and saying, oh, you guys need to work on child marriage and you should be doing this. It's really helping give them some skills and tools so that they can be that much more effective at what they're trying to do anyhow. So we don't actually run into that too much, though they certainly run into that with the policymakers that they're doing advocacy with.
But then you're kind of, an overused word, empowering them to make it happen where they are, if it's Malawi or Liberia or wherever it happens to be. And do you find that when you provide these advocates in their own countries with the tools to get the job done, that it sort of has this effect where it spreads? Because, oh, look, they got it done in this village over here in Liberia. We can do it in ours too.
Yeah.
And okay, so when that happens, do then those other folks come to you and say, hey, AGALI, we really like what you've done over here in Liberia. We'd like a piece of the action too. How does it happen?
Well, I just recently was talking to one of the people we work with in Malawi on child marriage law, and he said, I've been talking to Aisha, who's another one of our fellows in Liberia, and said, what they did to get this children's law passed was really successful, and they had groups of girls who dressed all in the same color and would go to the Senate every day and stand there as a reminder of why they were trying to get this passed. And they're now going to do that in Malawi. So they've been able to take these and say, okay, it worked there. Like, let's try this here and see if it's successful.
Exactly. It can't hurt.
Oh,
Can't hurt to try.
We're talking with Denise Dunning and Emily Teitsworth from the AGALI program. So why Latin America and Africa in particular?
So in part because of our funder, which is the UN Foundation. So they really had a focus on doing targeted work on adolescent girls. And so the countries that we work in have some of the biggest challenges for girls in terms of violence, in terms of limited access to education, in terms of all kinds of challenges economically and socially. And so there was really a need to focus more in terms of improving girls' lives in those countries.
Are you working on any issues related to birth control?
We do. Yeah.
I'm just curious because, again, another thing in the news in terms of Latin America in particular, a large resistance to wanting to enable access to birth control, maybe because of religion, maybe because of culture. And I'm just curious if that's something that's been addressed.
Absolutely. In Honduras, we're working with a group of leaders who created actually a national network that's focused on comprehensive sex ed. So some of the same issues that we have here in the U.S., and some of the same challenges, really focusing on increasing access to services, family planning, information, the whole thing. It's in some ways very similar.
And is it mostly that a lot of these topics are not even discussed openly? So for example, going to Honduras, where religion does play a huge part in why no birth control, I'm sure. You're talking about it and you're saying, okay, here's comprehensive sex ed for you kids. Because it's not being discussed at home, or if it's taboo, it's not being talked about on the streets. It's just happening, and oh, look, now I have a baby. So that's kind of how it happens, isn't it? And you go in and sort of turn that on its, I don't know what, upside down.
It's tummy.
Yeah, turn on its tummy. No, is that what's taking place when you go in? You're bringing it to the surface and saying, okay, we need to discuss this, everybody, openly. And then hopefully,
I think the approach of really having it be based in the community and something that, the people who we work with are working with girls and they're providing them with this stuff. They're also working with the parents, the community leaders. So it's not as if all of this is sort of coming out all of a sudden and it's a huge controversy. I mean, there are issues and difficulties with some of the more conservative elements, but in general, a lot of the people we work with have been able to frame it in terms of development for adolescent girls is good development for the community and for our country. And so a lot more people have been able to get behind it. It's a little bit less divisive than it is here in the U.S.
And that's true.
Yeah.
And I think also, we build from what the folks that we work with care about and think is important. And so right now we're trying to really expand into economic empowerment, because that's something that we keep hearing over and over again is these girls that are in these communities, even if there are better laws, even if there are better policies, they're still poor. So what do we do about that? So that's actually a new area that we're really trying to expand in as well, is really taking what we've built and then taking that to the next level.
So what are some of the ways that you can economically empower women and girls?
We're still in the process of figuring that out. I mean, there's some really exciting models out there. Everything from microfinance to financial literacy, all different types of programs. And so we're just really trying to figure out what are the key pieces that would be the best fit in the countries and communities that we're working in.
how can we help? Like, how can just regular people who could be watching this segment right now saying, wow, that sounds like a really cool program, how can we become involved?
There's a lot of information on our website, which is agaliprogram.org. We have some great advocacy videos and information about the work of all of our amazing grantees. And if anybody's interested in getting involved, I think that would be a great place to start.
Absolutely. And this year, like Emily mentioned, our big campaign and advocacy focuses on child marriage in Malawi in particular. So we're really trying to raise resources and raise commitment on that issue. So also if people are interested in either contributing to the program directly or, just getting involved, there's more information, like Em said, on our website.
Fantastic.
Next up, 15 quotes that just might prove Mr. Rogers is a perfect human. Won't you be my neighbor? All of our interviews are available online, and you can find them at theladybrainshow.com or search for Lady Brain in iTunes. Let's just forget I sang that. But we will be back with Mr. Rogers' quotes.